Hi, Marilyn here with Cotton and Chocolate. So this is part 2 of Fig Tree with February 2021. This is month 1. So we're here to talk about the piecing part of this project. Woohoo! So we are doing first the rolling stone block. And as I said, we're on page 6. So we're starting off easy. We do have 2 blocks to piece, but both are really easy to do. We're jumping in easy. We are going to be using the folded corner clipper ruler this time. So get ready. You're going to love it. I have most of the block laid out already, so I'll show you how to do it. So you've done your cutting and we're ready to piece. So the first thing that I did was I took my A and B blocks, the little rectangles, and sewed them together, laid them out with my little center green, looking cute already. And then I pieced, the only piecing that you need to do also is this little rolling stone. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to take our C blocks and then all these little squares that you cut. And I'm going to show you how you make them. So you're going to take your blues and you'll take one of these squares. I've already done 2, but I'm going to show you how this works. So you take your square, you put it right on the edge. And then I'm going to take my folded corner clipper. Now typically what you would do, I'll show you how it traditionally works, is you would take this from point to point and you would draw a line right on your block, and you sew right on the line, and then you cut a 1/4 inch in, cut that off, and then you fold this over. You would just iron it over. I would press over before you cut it off so you know where to press it, and then cut off the excess, okay? And that's your folded corner. So you kind of go through all those steps. And that's how I used to do it for years until I ran into this fabulous ruler that takes all those steps out of it. So with this ruler, you lay your square down. You don't have to draw that line any longer. You just put your square down. This is a 2-inch square. So I'm going to line this up all the way around. The edge is on that line and the top there. And then I'm just going to cut this off. Okay? And then I also will do the opposite side at the same time. So then I can just sew both of them down. And you can stick a pin in the other one if you want, or you can just kind of hold it in place. And I'm going to cut that one off also. And then I can just take it under my machine here. And that little indent is where your 1/4 inch is. So it just kind of shows you where it goes. I can hold that in place, and then I can just pull it out of my machine, go to the other side, make sure that my square is still in place, which it is, and then just sew the other side. And there you go. Okay, and then I'll just clip off that extra thread when I made the turn. So then I will press towards the triangles. Just press that out on each side. So you got to add the opposite pieces on first, because then what you're doing is when you add these in place, you're going to end up trimming off a little bit of the first ones that you added. So you got to add those first ones on first. I mean, you could add one, then the next one, the next one, and the next one, but it's a little laborious doing it that way. So now I'm going to add this one, and then I'll cut it off here. So you can see that I've cut off a little bit of the previous one underneath. And then I'm going to turn this here, cut off this one. Here, and then I'll just run it right under my machine. And then this one moved a little bit, so I'll just make sure it gets set up. And like I said, you could put a pin in it too. And then I'll just clip off that thread press it outward. And then press this one outward. And there's my rolling stone, okay? And I have it right in place there. I would make all 4 of them. This one is almost ready to go. So now when you're piecing that, when I would piece this with this piece up so that when I'm sewing, I can see that intersection. See that little cross in between the blue, and I want to go just, I don't want to piece it right on the X, I want to piece it right below it, because if you piece it right on the X, that little point there is going to disappear. But if you piece it right below, then that point is going to be intact. Okay? So I would then treat it just as a 9 patch. And I could sew across and across and across. And I would just, you know, you could press outward and inward there. And then those would nest together when you're sewing your block. So you have your 9 patch there. Okay, and then next we're going to be moving on to the double pinwheel block. Okay, so now we're going to be piecing the double pinwheels block. We're going to be making 2 of those blocks this time. So you have your triangles that you've cut, 1 larger set and then 2 smaller sets of the green and the yellow. So you're going to be taking and piecing all of these green and yellows together so they look like this set right here, okay? And I've sewn mine together, so I have that sewn like this. And once you have that sewn together, you're going to actually be piecing it to this larger triangle. Now, what you're going to notice is that when you piece these together, this green and yellow one is going to be a little bit smaller than the larger triangle, and that's okay. It doesn't matter. You're going to be cutting all of this down to size, so don't worry about it, okay? So go ahead, and what I do is I just kind of scooch this one down so that it lines up with the bottom of the larger triangle, and I'm just going to sew those on that bottom line using that as a guide. Uh-oh, it's getting chewed up there a little bit. Let me get going here again. Okay, hopefully I got it okay here. And then I'm going to be pressing towards the larger triangle, okay? Now, what you'll notice in the instructions is that you have to cut this down to 2.5 inches, and it will be, thankfully, a little bit larger than 2.5 inches. Now, the key here is you can't just go ahead and just measure it off at 2.5 inches and cut it down, because you have a little line here. So what you have to do is take a ruler that has a marking, a 45-degree inch mark, and then what's half of 2.5? 1 1/4. So find your 1 1/4 inch mark. For me, it's right here on your grid line, and that 1 1/4 inch mark should be right where that point is, right here. This should be 1 1/4. So I'm going to put this at 1 1/4 right here. Okay, that's my 1 1/4, and then this line that's the 45 degrees should be right on that seam. I'm going to take and I'm going to square it up right here across, okay, and then I'm going to turn my block this way, and then I can again line it up at 2.5 with this on the seam line here at 2.5 here, and then square up my block this way. That way I know that that piece block line going this way is right in the center and is pieced up nicely. Okay, there you have it pieced up correctly. So you need 4 of these to make a block. Right now I have 2 pieces, so this one would go with this facing down, this one facing this way. So that's 2 parts of my pinwheel block. I want to point out, when you make these 2, one block you're going to piece completely, okay? One block, you're only going to piece it in halves. You're going to piece this half, and then you're going to piece the bottom half. But you're not going to piece it together, because later in this quilt, you're going to need those blocks separated for the complete piecing of the quilt. They need to be separated, okay? If you forget, it's all right. You'll have to take it apart later. But if you remember by watching this video, just keep it apart. You'll put these somewhere else, pin them together, but keep one of these components apart, okay? But it's easy to make. Watch this video for cutting so that these stay in the right symmetrical shape, okay? And then they're easy to put together. All right, that's it for this month. Thank you and enjoy it. We'll see you next month.